Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video and I'm so excited to be back. And today I'm showing you guys how I install my wig as a beginner. Okay, so this is actually my first wig. As you guys can see here, I'm just showing you guys how it turned out. So underneath my wig, I had my hair cornrowed, and I start off with this cable oil. This is so easy to apply because it has the nozzle, so I just use it to apply in between my braids, making sure to focus on my scalp. So I just apply it on each and every part. Then I just go in with my fingers and just make sure to rub it in, making sure that I do at the back, the nape of my neck as well. Next up, I go in with this Isoplus hair gel. I just use this to push back my edges. I love this one because it's much thicker than my Eco Gel, so it's very good for pushing back your edges and keeping them down. And then what I like to do is on my sideburns, I like to pull them down. Okay, so the reason why I do this, you guys are going to see a little bit later on, is because on my wig, I'm not sure if my wig is small or I just cut it too much. So that's why I like to pull down my sideburns, because those parts always show. And then next up, I go in with this hairspray from Tresemme, and I just spray it all over my edges, making sure that I keep them down. And then instead of going in with a wig cap, I actually use a stocking. I bought this from Pep. You can just buy whichever one that is this neutral skin color. I actually don't like this one. I bought another one previously that was much shinier. This one is not as shiny. This one is more on the matte side, but they didn't have the one that I wanted, so I just bought this one because I wanted to do my hair. I make sure to cut holes behind my ears. I always used to forget this part. I cut the hole behind my ears before I try to glue the stocking down, and then I make sure to put in my ear in the hole. I do this on both sides. I always struggle with this where my sideburns are, because I feel like maybe I cut the holes too small and it doesn't like completely flat close to my sideburns, but I've gotten better at it. Then I take this hairspray from Tresemme. This is a hold spray, and I spray it on where my edges are to just make sure that the cap or the stocking is glued to my head, right? And then this is the part where you can make use of a hair dryer, but I don't have a hair dryer. Mine actually literally exploded, so I was just using that paper. And this part is also very important, you guys. If you are reinstalling your wig, sometimes when you wash it, the hair can pull through the lace and be at the bottom. So I always make sure to take a pair of scissors, and then I cut any hair that is pulled through to the bottom of my lace. So that's what I'm doing over there. And then I take my wig, I put it on before I cut the stocking. This is to make sure that I know exactly how far back I am gonna cut my stocking, right? So I just pull it in place, and then when I'm happy with the way it looks, I go in with my concealer. I actually saw this on TikTok. There's this lady called Amanda. She does hair on TikTok. So she showed that you can use this concealer or just any concealer that you have to map out exactly where your wig is going to lay, right? So once you've mapped it out, but you don't draw a full line. You just dot on the hairline, just in front of the hairline. And then you can go in with your scissors and you can cut off the stocking, which is what I'm doing over here. And this you have to do when it is already dried onto your head, okay? You can't do it when it's still wet because it's just gonna slide off, right? So that's what I'm doing. And I like to do it in sections because, again, I'm a beginner. I'm not good with this. So I like to do it in sections. When I cut it into sections, it becomes much easier for me to cut. And that's what I'm doing, making sure I'm following that dotted out line. And I love this pair of scissors. I would suggest that you get a good pair of scissors when you're trying to install your wig, because it will make the job way easier. And that is what I'm doing over here. I just cut it off, and you have to take your time, especially as a beginner. You have to take your time. You don't want to rush, because first of all, you're still learning. You don't know how to do this perfectly. So if you take your time, it will allow you to do it as best as you possibly can. And that's exactly what I'm doing, right? And then another thing that I struggle with, like I said earlier, where my sideburns are, the stocking doesn't really lie as flat as it could. So someone told me on Instagram that I can actually use my glue, right? And I can use my glue to paste down or to glue down the stocking onto my head. And I think this was such a genius idea, because when I do it, I am able to make sure that the stocking towards my ear or closest to my sideburn is in place. Before, I would cut it off and then it would just roll back because it wasn't stuck down. But now I can just use the end of my comb and then I just line the glue and then wait for it to dry. And then when it's dry, I can just cut it off. And to think about it, this is actually quite genius because it's not directly on my hair. And anyway, I was planning on putting glue on top of the stocking, so I don't think it really affects my hair. Then I go in with the tip, or rather the end of my comb, and I just try to lay the stocking down as much as possible, because when you cut it off, it does lift just a little bit, right? So I just use the end to make sure it's as flat as it possibly can. And then afterwards, I go in and I cut off the ends, right? After the glue has dried up, I cut it off. And can you guys see that it's stuck down? I don't have to worry about that anymore, thanks to that person that gave me that tip on Instagram. And then afterwards, I go in with my wipe. This is just a facial wipe. And I just remove any excess glue that there might be on my forehead. And I always get hairspray all over the side of my face when I'm trying to spray down the stocking. So I also use this opportunity to just wipe it off, wipe my ear off, just any residue that's all over my face. I just use the wipe to wipe it off, and that's what I'm doing over there. And then the next part is when you actually glue down the wig. So I'm taking my ghost bond. A lot of people have been asking me where I buy this. I buy it from Take Lot. I bought it as a pack. It comes as the ghost bond, the glue remover, and the stick. I'm going to show you guys the stick later on, the wax stick. So I just use my fingers to do this. I just put the glue on the edge of my stocking and I make sure to lay it flat as much as possible. I don't want it to be clumpy, so as you guys can see here, I'm pushing it back. I always make sure to do that, right? And I do 3 layers of this, and in between each layer I make sure that the glue dries down clear. So I just use that paper again to just make sure it dries. If you have a hairdryer, it's the best opportunity for you to use the hairdryer. After I've done 3 layers, and also you guys, I also make sure to do one side at a time because I'm still learning. Like I said, I can't do the whole head because it doesn't work out as nicely. So I do one side at a time, and when it's dried down, the 3rd layer, I go in with my wig. As you guys can see there, I use the back of my comb to make sure that I just push it down onto my head, making sure that it's sticking. I also try to pull out any hairs that might be stuck underneath the wig, between my scalp and the wig, and I make sure that everything is pushed back. That's very important. If you don't push your hair back, especially if maybe you're reinstalling, you can get a lot of hair that is stuck in between the lace and your forehead. So I just brush it backwards. This is also a technique that I saw on TikTok or any of the other people that do tutorials on how to install your wig. And if it's not completely glued down, you can use the end of your comb like I'm doing there and just put in a little amount of glue on the parts that are still sticking up, right? And once you're done with the one side, you go in on the other side. So I just try to clip back my hair so that I can expose my forehead and where that stocking is on the other side. And I repeated the same process. I take glue on my finger and then I spread it thin from the middle of my forehead to the end of the one side. And you guys can see here, this is where I feel like my lace, I'm not sure if the wig is small or I just cut it terribly the first time when I was trying. because I've tried a number of times, you guys. Like, I didn't do this correctly the first time. The first time it was a headache, it was a mess, right? So I think I might have cut it wrong when I started out. Then I go in after it has dried up clear. I go in with the lace, right? I try to lay it down, making sure to take my time. That is the trick with trying to learn how to install your wig. You have to take your time, okay? So I do that over here. I'm just trying to make sure it's in the right place, making sure that the stocking is not exposed. I think another mistake I made with this particular install is that I didn't put any foundation on the stocking, because the previous stocking that I had, the one that's shinier, I didn't have to put on any foundation because the color was perfect. But this one was a bit on the darker side, and as a result, I think I noticed that I could detect the stocking underneath my lace. But after I've stuck it down, I take the wax stick. This is the wax stick I was telling you guys about. I bought this from Takealot as well. It came in the pack with the glue and the glue remover. I just use the wax stick to make sure that my hair is laid back, there aren't any flyaways, and then I go in with the hot comb. The hot comb I also bought from Takealot. If you're a person that's in Joburg, I've seen on TikTok that people say you can find all of these items at Dragon City, but I didn't buy them there, and apparently they're much cheaper at Dragon City than you would find them on Takealot. But if you're a person that likes convenience, then you can most certainly buy them from Takealot. So I just make sure to brush it backwards, and then afterwards I use this spray to try and melt the lace as much as possible. So I spray it on the exposed parts of the lace, right? I spray as much as I can, and then I take that paper again and I wave it around trying to dry it up. And another trick, you guys, if you are trying to lay down your lace, I found, for me anyway, that using my stocking or my pantyhose works much better than using the elastic band. I have the elastic band, but I feel like it doesn't work nicely, not to mention it hurts my head and my ears so much. So I just use that pantyhose, and I keep it on for a long time, you guys. You have to keep it on for a long time, especially if you don't have a dryer. So I have to wait like an hour sometimes. I just do other things around the house. Then I just came back on camera, and now I wanted to do a side part, okay? So I just parted my hair on the side, and because I had just washed the hair, it was like uncontrollable. It was everywhere, and I had to tame it using the hot comb. So I just make sure to brush it towards the side as much as possible. And that's what I'm doing over here. This hot comb works pretty good. It's not the hottest. I'm sure I could find something much better than this, but it does the job, okay? So I just make sure to brush my hair in the direction I want it to be, and I have to take my time with this as well. Like I said, it's not the hottest, but if you are patient with it and you also use the wax stick, it works pretty good, which is what I'm doing over here. I use the wax stick as well. I don't like to use the wax stick a lot. I use the wax stick a lot in this video because I was trying to tame the hair, but I've noticed when I make use of the wax stick, it has this really like this oily look to it, which I don't like. It doesn't look as clean and as like bouncy and as flowy. It just lays down and sticks in one place, which I don't like. But anyway, it turned out pretty good, I think. But next time I would make sure to use more heat than I would wax stick. Like I said, this is just a process of me trying to style the hair. You brush it down, you use hot comb, you use wax stick, just anything to make sure that it lays down. And that's what I'm doing over there. And I also go in with my brush, making sure to brush out any knots. Like I said, I just washed the hair. And now, you guys, it's time to do the edges. Oh my goodness. Like you guys, I am very comfortable doing edges on my own hair, right? But with a wig, for some reason, it's one of the hardest things for me to be able to achieve. I go in first with the hot comb, and then I go in with the wax stick, and I make sure I lay the hair in the direction I want it to go. And this is also your opportunity if you are still a beginner, you're a learner, and maybe your lace isn't laid down so perfectly. Using baby hairs can work out perfectly for you. So I also use this olive oil mousse to lay down my edges. I know some people are not a fan of edges, but personally I like them, especially as a beginner, because it really helps me try to make my hair look better, because I don't lay it perfectly, but when I add edges it looks better because it covers up all those parts that don't look so great, which is exactly what I'm trying to do here. So I do a swoop and then I try to do the sideburns as well. And that's what I'm doing right over there. And when I've done both sides, I go back in with the pantyhose, right? And then I tie it. And you have to tie it quite tightly so that it can keep everything in place, right? And then once I've tied it in place, I pull it back so that it doesn't cover any of the hair, because now I'm going to try to style the hair, right? But while I'm styling the hair, I want to make sure that my edges stay down and mold in place. And then after I've tied that, I make sure to tie it on the front as well, so I double tie it. Then I go in with my hairspray, like I said, because I'm trying to mold this hair into the shape that I want it to go, right? And now it is time to do the actual styling of the hair, and I use this Tresemme Heat Defense spray. I love this spray. It's not exactly the cheapest, but I would say it's sort of like reasonable for how much you get off it and what it's supposed to be. And if you check other sprays in the market, that's pretty much how much you'll be looking at. And I bought it from a Dischem. Yeah, I bought it from Dischem. And I just spray this all over my hair. And now I am flat ironing my hair. I bought the flat iron from Takealot as well. It's not the best either, but it does the job. So you guys, like, styling a wig, it takes so much time, but I've learned to love the process. Initially I used to find it to be so frustrating, but now I enjoy it. So I just flat iron the hair from the back going to the front, and it's quite important because it makes the hair look much nicer. Then to finish up the hair, I'm going to take this Tresemme marula oil, and this makes the hair look so healthy. It makes the hair look so shiny. I just make sure to put it all over my hair, making sure to focus on the ends of the hair, because those are the parts that look the most dry. And I just put my fingers through it, making sure that I'm getting every part and every inch of the hair. And afterwards, I just take off the pantyhose, and if I need to go back in, I just go back in with my straightener. And that's it, you guys. That's how I achieve my wig installation. That's literally the process that I follow. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will be seeing you guys soon in another video. Bye.